Introduction to the Galactic Council. In a galaxy teeming with life, the Galactic Council stood as a beacon of hope for interspecies cooperation. Formed eons ago, this assembly was not merely a governing body. It was a tapestry woven from the diverse threads of countless civilizations, each contributing its unique culture, technology, and philosophy. Among these civilizations, humanity emerged as a curious newcomer, eager to explore its place among the stars. The Galactic Council. The Council convened in a colossal structure known as the Nexus, a hub that floated gracefully within a nebula rich with colors that dazzled even the most jaded eyes. The Nexus was equipped with advanced technology that allowed for seamless communication across vast distances, enabling representatives from various species to engage in discussions that shaped their collective future. Seated at a circular table were representatives from various member species, the wise Eldari, known for their longevity and deep understanding of cosmic phenomena, the industrious Thraxians, who had mastered engineering and technology, and the formidable Hadar, whose military prowess was both respected and feared. Each representative brought their own set of values and priorities to the discussions, creating an environment rich with potential for both collaboration and conflict. Humanity's arrival. Humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council occurred under less than auspicious circumstances. A Kinnar freighter, damaged by pirates, had drifted into what would soon be recognized as human space. In their moment of desperation, they sent out a distress signal in binary code, a universal language understood by many species across the galaxy. To their surprise, they received an immediate response from two unarmed vessels, one a repair ship, the other a hospital ship. This initial encounter set the tone for humanity's interactions within the Council, while other species viewed them through skeptical lenses, often perceiving them as naive or weak. Humans demonstrated an unexpected capacity for diplomacy. They quickly adapted to their new environment, learning about interstellar trade routes, cultural exchanges, and military alliances. Key characters. Among those who would come to symbolize humanity's journey in this new realm were two individuals, Ambassador Alexandra Hansen and Admiral Marcus Reed. Ambassador Alexandra Hansen was appointed at just 30 years old, a youthful figure in a council dominated by much older representatives. Her keen intellect and ability to navigate complex political landscapes made her an invaluable asset to humanity's diplomatic efforts. Despite her youth, she commanded respect through her unwavering commitment to peace. Admiral Marcus Reed, on the other hand, represented humanity's military interests. A seasoned veteran with scars that told stories of past conflicts, he was often seen as a necessary counterbalance to Hansen's diplomatic approach. While he understood the importance of negotiation, his experiences had taught him that sometimes strength was required to ensure survival. The initial peaceful interactions. As humanity integrated into the Galactic Council, they engaged in numerous exchanges, sharing technological advancements while learning from others' histories. They exchanged knowledge about agriculture, medicine, and engineering techniques that had taken centuries to develop on Earth. However, not all interactions were harmonious. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as some council members questioned humanity's motives. The Hadar were particularly vocal in their skepticism. They viewed humanity's rapid expansion as a threat to their own territorial ambitions. Cultural exchanges. Cultural exchanges flourished during this period. Humanity introduced various forms of art, music that resonated through the corridors of the Nexus, and literature that captivated alien minds with tales of adventure and morality. In return, they were exposed to alien philosophies that challenged their understanding of existence itself. Yet amidst these exchanges lay an undercurrent of unease. As humans established colonies on distant planets, claiming resources previously untouched, their presence began to encroach upon territories claimed by other species, foreshadowing conflict. As tensions mounted between humanity and more established species like the Hadar, whispers of impending conflict began to circulate within council chambers. Some members believed that humanity's reluctance to engage militarily was a sign of weakness. others saw it as an opportunity for exploitation. Ambassador Hansen often found herself defending her people against accusations that they were unprepared for interstellar politics. "We are not naive," she would assert firmly during council debates. "We seek cooperation over conflict." Yet even as she spoke these words with conviction, she couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling, a sense that their peaceful approach might soon be put to the ultimate test. This introduction sets up a complex narrative, exploring themes such as diplomacy versus militarism, cultural exchange versus territorial ambition, and ultimately questions what it means to be strong in a universe where power dynamics are constantly shifting. As we delve deeper into this tale in subsequent parts, we will witness how these themes unfold against a backdrop of escalating tensions within the Galactic Council, humanity's expansion, and diplomacy. As the Galactic Council continued to evolve, humanity's presence within it grew more pronounced. The initial excitement surrounding their arrival had transformed into a complex tapestry of relationships, negotiations, and occasional conflicts. This part of the story delves into humanity's rapid expansion in the galaxy, their diplomatic efforts, and the tensions that began to brew with the Hadar, a species known for their militaristic tendencies. The dawn of expansion. In the years following their acceptance into the Galactic Council, humanity embarked on an ambitious journey of exploration and colonization. Utilizing advanced starship technology, they ventured into uncharted territories, establishing colonies on habitable planets and mining operations on resource-rich asteroids. The human spirit of adventure was matched only by their desire for knowledge and trade. With each new system claimed, humanity not only expanded its reach, but also its influence. Trade routes flourished, connecting human colonies with other member species. The bustling markets of human worlds became melting pots of culture and commerce, showcasing everything from Thraxian engineering marvels to Eldari art. Diplomacy flourished as humans engaged in cultural exchanges that highlighted their openness and willingness to learn from others. However, this rapid expansion did not come without challenges. As humans ventured deeper into space, they inevitably encroached upon territories claimed by other species. While many interactions were peaceful, some were marked by misunderstandings and territorial disputes. Diplomatic successes. Humanity's diplomatic endeavors were often characterized by their willingness to compromise. In one notable instance, a small species known as the Thene attempted to invade a human-controlled system that had been under human protection for centuries. Rather than retaliate with military force, which could have escalated tensions further, humanity chose a different path. They sought arbitration through the Galactic Council. The outcome was surprising. Rather than demanding retribution, humans offered the Thene limited rights to the resources of the system in exchange for peace. This act of goodwill not only prevented further conflict, but also established a precedent for future interactions, one where diplomacy triumphed over aggression. The Ava Crisis. Another significant test of humanity's diplomatic resolve came during what would be known as the Ava Crisis. On the planet Ava, a group of terrorists seized control of a major city, threatening to detonate a stolen nuclear warhead unless their demands were met. The situation was dire. Millions of lives hung in the balance. Faced with this unprecedented threat, Admiral Marcus Reed was thrust into the spotlight. He understood that any military action could lead to catastrophic consequences. Instead of resorting to force, he advocated for negotiation. Utilizing all available channels, humanity engaged with both the terrorists and the Galactic Council. In a remarkable display of diplomacy, Ambassador Alexandra Hansen managed to broker a deal with another species, the Carol Melia, who had captured members of a rival terrorist cell that the Ava terrorists wanted released. This negotiation required significant concessions from humanity, over 5 trillion galactic monetary units in financial aid and resources, but it ultimately saved millions of lives. The success of this negotiation reinforced humanity's reputation as a species committed to peace. However, it also raised eyebrows among other council members who began to question whether humanity's reluctance to engage militarily was a sign of weakness or strategic foresight. Tensions with the Hadar. As humanity continued its expansion and diplomatic efforts flourished, they found themselves increasingly at odds with the Hadar, a warlike species known for their aggressive territorial claims and military prowess. Initially indifferent towards humanity's rise as a mercantile powerhouse, relations began to sour as human colonies encroached upon Hadar territories. The Hadar had long been accustomed to being the dominant force within their region of space, with humanity's rapid growth threatening their status as the biggest fish in the pond. Feelings of resentment began to fester among Hadar leaders. Diplomatic overtures from humanity were met with skepticism. No matter how generous or accommodating humans attempted to be, it never seemed enough for the Hadar. The final straw. The tipping point came when Hadar military forces crossed into human-controlled territory and occupied an entire star cluster known as Hyades, an area rich in habitable worlds and vital resources such as thallium and gallium. This aggressive action sent shockwaves through human leadership. Ambassador Hansen quickly recognized that diplomacy alone would not suffice in addressing this blatant act of aggression. She turned to the Galactic Council for arbitration, a decision that would prove pivotal in shaping humanity's future within the galaxy. In preparation for these critical negotiations, Hansen sought counsel from various allies within the Council. Her determination was palpable. She understood that failure could mean not only loss of territory, but also loss of credibility among her peers. A meeting of minds. As preparations for arbitration commenced, Hansen sought out Genta, a Jodani ambassador who had become an ally during her time in the Council. Their friendship had blossomed over shared experiences and mutual respect for each other's cultures. Genta, she began earnestly during one late-night meeting in his office adorned with Jodani art and artifacts. I'm worried about what lies ahead. The Hadar are stubborn. They see our attempts at diplomacy as weakness. Genta nodded thoughtfully as he poured them both drinks from a bottle labeled Jack Daniels, a gesture that had become customary during their discussions. You're right to be concerned, he replied solemnly. The Hadar have always been hard-headed. Hansen leaned forward, her expression serious. We need them to understand that war is not an option, that it will only lead to suffering on both sides. Genta raised an eyebrow thoughtfully before responding. You know better than anyone that some species thrive on conflict. They may see your reluctance as an opportunity. A shared fear. Over drinks and discussions late into the night, Hansen confided her fears about what might happen if negotiations failed. I fear that if we can't reach an agreement with them soon, we might be forced into a war we're not prepared for. Genta listened intently as she spoke about her people's history, how they had learned through centuries of conflict that cooperation was far more beneficial than war. I've seen what war does, she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. It destroys lives. It leaves scars that never heal. Genta felt a pang of empathy. He understood her fears all too well. His own people had faced similar struggles throughout their history before embracing cooperation over conflict. Allie, he said gently, I promise you that we will do everything we can to ensure peace prevails. The first meeting. When the day of arbitration finally arrived, tensions ran high within the Nexus chamber where representatives gathered from both sides. The humans led by Ambassador Hansen, and the Hadar represented by their formidable ambassador. From the outset, it became clear that this meeting would be unlike any other they had experienced before. The Hadar ambassador was unyielding. He dismissed all attempts at compromise with arrogance that shocked even seasoned council members. Hansen remained composed despite mounting frustration. She understood that one misstep could derail everything they had worked so hard for. As discussions progressed and tempers flared, it became evident that reaching an amicable solution would require more than just words. It would demand strategic thinking and unwavering resolve from both sides. This part illustrates humanity's journey through expansion and diplomacy, while highlighting key events leading up to rising tensions with the Hadar species. As we move forward in this narrative, we will witness how these tensions escalate into conflict and how both sides grapple with their identities amidst impending war. The crisis with the Hadar. As tensions escalated between humanity and the Hadar, the Galactic Council found itself at a crossroads. The crisis that unfolded not only tested the diplomatic efforts of Ambassador Alexander Hansen, but also challenged the very fabric of interspecies relations within the galaxy. This part of the story delves into the aggressive actions taken by the Hadar, humanity's political and military strategies in response, and the critical events leading to arbitration. The Hadar's aggressive posturing. The Hadar, once indifferent to humanity's rise, grew increasingly hostile as human colonies expanded into territories they considered their own. With their military reputation firmly established, the Hadar viewed humanity's rapid growth as a direct threat to their dominance within the Galactic Council. Their leaders, feeling cornered by humanity's economic prowess and territorial claims, began to adopt a more aggressive stance. The situation reached a boiling point when Hadar military forces crossed into human-controlled space, seizing an entire star cluster known as Hyades. This cluster was not just a collection of planets. It was a vital resource hub that produced over a third of humanity's thallium and gallium, elements crucial for advanced technology and weaponry. The Hadar's actions were not merely territorial. They were a calculated move to undermine humanity's burgeoning power. Humanity's response. In response to the incursion, Admiral Marcus Reed convened an emergency meeting with key military leaders and advisors. The atmosphere was tense. They were faced with a decision that could alter the course of their history. Reed understood that while military action might seem justified, it could also lead to catastrophic consequences. Engaging them militarily would be a mistake, Reed stated firmly during the meeting. We cannot afford to escalate this conflict into an all-out war. We need to find a way to resolve this diplomatically. His words resonated with many in the room, but there were dissenting voices. Some military leaders argued that showing weakness would only embolden the Hadar further. They believed that a show of force was necessary to reclaim Hyades and assert humanity's position within the Council. Ambassador Hansen entered the meeting, sensing the growing divide among military leaders. We must present a united front, she urged. If we allow ourselves to be divided now, we risk losing everything we've worked for. The Council's role. With tensions mounting, Hansen turned to the Galactic Council for assistance. She knew that arbitration was their best chance for a peaceful resolution. However, she also understood that convincing other council members, especially those sympathetic to the Hadar, would be challenging. As she prepared for her presentation before the council, Hansen meticulously gathered data on the economic implications of war versus peace. She highlighted how conflict would not only devastate human colonies, but also disrupt trade routes vital to many member species. War is not just about territory, she emphasized during her presentation. It's about lives lost, economies shattered, and futures destroyed. We must find common ground before it's too late. Her impassioned plea struck a chord with some council members who recognized that war would have far-reaching consequences beyond just humanity and the Hadar. The first arbitration meeting. The day of arbitration arrived with palpable tension in the air. Representatives from both sides gathered in the Grand Chamber of the Nexus, a space designed for high-stakes negotiations. The chamber was adorned with symbols of unity among species, but now felt like an arena where two opposing forces would clash. Hansen took her seat across from the Hadar ambassador, who exuded an air of arrogance and disdain. His presence loomed large as he surveyed the assembled representatives with an expression that suggested he felt above them all. "Let us begin," he said dismissively, his voice dripping with condescension. "Humanity has overstepped its bounds and must be made to understand its place." Hansen remained composed despite his provocations. "We are here to discuss a peaceful resolution regarding Hyades," she replied firmly. "We believe in cooperation rather than conflict." Negotiation breakdown. As discussions progressed, it became evident that reaching an agreement would be more difficult than anticipated. The Hadar ambassador refused to consider any compromises, insisting that they had rightful claim over Haiads due to historical precedents dating back centuries. Hansen countered by presenting evidence of human settlements established long before Hadar incursions began, a tactic aimed at demonstrating humanity's long-standing connection to the region. "Your claims are based on outdated notions of ownership," she argued passionately. "We have built lives here, families, communities. This is not just about resources, it is about our people." But her words fell on deaf ears. The Hadar ambassador remained steadfast in his demands. As tensions escalated within the chamber, it became clear that neither side was willing to budge. A dangerous escalation. As negotiations faltered, reports began filtering in from human colonies near Haiads. Rumors of skirmishes between Hadar forces and human settlers emerged. These incidents escalated quickly. Minor confrontations turned into full-blown conflicts as both sides exchanged fire over disputed territories. Admiral Reed received urgent communications detailing these clashes during one particularly tense day of negotiations. He knew that if hostilities continued unchecked, it could lead to an all-out war, a scenario he had desperately sought to avoid. "Ambassador Hansen," he said urgently during a break in negotiations, "we need to take action now before this spirals out of control." Hansen nodded gravely. She understood that time was running out. "I will call for an emergency session with council members who support our cause," she replied determinedly. Allies emerge. In her quest for support within the council, Hansen reached out to Genta, the Jordani ambassador who had become one of her closest allies since her arrival at the council years earlier. "Genta," she implored during their meeting in his office, "we need your help now more than ever. If we can rally enough support from other species who value peace over war, we might stand a chance against this aggression." Genta listened intently as she laid out her plan, an initiative aimed at uniting those who opposed war against humanity's expansionist policies. "I will do everything I can," he assured her earnestly. "We cannot allow this conflict to escalate further. It would set a dangerous precedent for all member species." Rallying support. With Genta's backing secured, Hansen began reaching out to other ambassadors, those from species known for their commitment to diplomacy and cooperation rather than militarism. One by one, they joined her cause, recognizing that if they allowed aggression from one species to go unchecked, it could embolden others within their ranks as well. As alliances formed within council chambers, hope began to flicker amidst growing despair over ongoing hostilities between humans and Hadar forces. The final push for peace. With renewed determination, fueled by support from various ambassadors across different species, including those who had previously been skeptical about humanity, Hansen prepared for what would be one last push toward peace before things spiraled completely out of control. "Today is our chance," she declared passionately during an emergency session convened by council members sympathetic towards humanity's plight. "If we do not act decisively now against this aggression from the Hadar, we risk losing everything we've worked so hard for." Her words resonated deeply among those present. They understood what was at stake, not just for humanity, but for every species represented in their assembly. This part illustrates how tensions escalated between humanity and the Hadar, leading up to critical moments in arbitration efforts, while emphasizing themes such as diplomacy versus aggression and unity among diverse species against common threats. As we move forward into subsequent parts of this narrative journey together through these crises, unfolding within interstellar politics, will reveal deeper complexities surrounding conflict resolution amidst rising hostilities between civilizations across galaxies. The arbitration process. As the crisis with the Hadar escalated, the Galactic Council became the stage for a critical arbitration process that would determine the fate of humanity's territories and its standing within the galaxy. This part of the story explores the dynamics of the arbitration meetings, the perspectives of both human and Hadar representatives, and the growing tension that threatened to erupt into open conflict. The stage is set. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a marvel of architecture, designed to symbolize unity among diverse species. Its high ceilings were adorned with holographic displays of different star systems, while ambient lighting shifted colors to reflect the mood of discussions taking place within. On this day, however, an air of tension hung heavy in the room as representatives from both humanity and the Hadar prepared for what would be a pivotal series of meetings. Ambassador Alexandra Hansen arrived early, her mind racing with thoughts of strategy and potential outcomes. She had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, consulting with military advisors, economists, and fellow diplomats. Despite her usual composure, she felt a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. The stakes were higher than ever. Failure could mean not only loss of territory, but also a significant blow to humanity's reputation among other council members. As she took her seat at the negotiation table, she glanced across at the Hadar delegation. Their ambassador, a towering figure named Korak, exuded an aura of confidence that bordered on arrogance. The Hadar were known for their fierce pride and militaristic culture. Korak's demeanor suggested he viewed this arbitration as an opportunity to assert dominance over humanity. The first meeting. The first meeting began with formalities as each side presented their case. Hansen opened with a statement emphasizing humanity's commitment to peace and cooperation. She outlined how the Hadar's aggressive actions had disrupted not only human settlements, but also trade routes vital to many species within the Council. Korak responded dismissively, asserting that humanity's expansion into what he deemed Hadar territory was an act of aggression in itself. "You humans have grown bold in your expansion," he declared. "You seek to claim what rightfully belongs to us." Hansen countered by presenting historical data showing that human colonies had been established long before Hadar incursions began. "We are not here to take what is yours," she insisted. "We seek coexistence and mutual benefit." However, Korak remained unmoved. He reiterated his demands for complete control over Hyades, framing it as a matter of survival for his people. "The resources of Hyades are essential for our continued existence," he argued. "You cannot expect us to relinquish our claims without compensation." Negotiation dynamics. As discussions progressed, it became clear that Korak was unwilling to consider any compromise. His rigid stance frustrated Hansen and her team, who had come prepared with proposals aimed at finding common ground. They suggested joint resource management agreements that would allow both species to benefit from Hyades without resorting to conflict. But Korak dismissed these proposals outright. "You underestimate our resolve," he said coldly. "The Hadar will not share what is rightfully ours." Hansen felt a wave of frustration wash over her. It was becoming increasingly evident that Korak viewed humanity as weak, an impression that had been hardwired into his perception since their first interactions. The idea that humanity could be seen as anything other than a legitimate power in the galaxy was infuriating. Tensions rise. As days turned into weeks, tensions within the council chamber escalated. Each meeting seemed to deepen the divide between humanity and the Hadar. While Hansen remained committed to diplomacy, Korak's provocations grew bolder. He often made disparaging remarks about humanity's military capabilities. "Your reliance on diplomacy is admirable," he would sneer during meetings, "but it will not save you when faced with true power." Hansen struggled to maintain her composure in response to such taunts. She understood that Korak was attempting to provoke her into losing her temper, a tactic designed to undermine her credibility as a negotiator. A turning point. During one particularly heated session, tensions reached a breaking point when Korak accused humanity of cowardice for avoiding military confrontation. His words struck a nerve. Hansen could feel anger bubbling beneath her calm exterior. "Cowardice?" she retorted sharply, her voice rising above the murmurs in the chamber. "We are not afraid of conflict. We choose peace because we understand its value. War brings nothing but suffering." Korak leaned forward, his eyes narrowing dangerously. "Then prove it," he challenged. "Show us you are willing to defend your claims if you truly believe they are yours." Hansen took a deep breath, trying to regain control over her emotions. She knew this was a dangerous game. Any hint of aggression could escalate tensions further. Seeking allies. In light of escalating tensions during negotiations, Hansen sought counsel from allies within the Council who had previously expressed support for humanity's cause. She reached out to Genta, the Jordani ambassador, who had become one of her closest confidants since their first meeting. "Genta," she said urgently during their private meeting, "we need your support now more than ever. If we can rally enough council members behind us, we may be able to pressure Korak into reconsidering his stance." Genta nodded thoughtfully. He understood the gravity of their situation all too well. "I will speak with my fellow ambassadors," he assured her. "Many share your concerns about Hadar aggression." With renewed determination fueled by Genta's support, Hansen began reaching out to other ambassadors, those from species known for their commitment to peace and cooperation rather than militarism. A glimmer of hope. As Hansen worked tirelessly behind the scenes to gather support from other council members sympathetic towards humanity's plight, she began noticing subtle shifts in attitudes among some representatives who had previously been skeptical about human capabilities. During one meeting where various ambassadors discussed ongoing tensions within council chambers, several spoke up in favor of mediation rather than outright confrontation, a sign that perhaps there was still hope for peaceful resolution. "War benefits no one," one ambassador remarked thoughtfully. "We must find ways to foster cooperation rather than division." Hansen seized upon these sentiments as she continued advocating for joint resource management agreements that would allow both humans and Hadar access without resorting to conflict. The final meeting approaches. As the final meeting approached, a session deemed critical for determining whether negotiations would yield any progress, Hansen felt an overwhelming sense of urgency weighing heavily on her shoulders. "We cannot afford failure," she confided in Genta during their last private discussion before entering negotiations once more. "If we do not reach an agreement soon, I fear what might happen next." Genta placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. His presence offered comfort amidst uncertainty surrounding impending decisions that could change everything they had worked so hard for. "You are not alone in this fight," he reminded her firmly. "Together we will find a way forward." This part illustrates the complexities and tensions surrounding the arbitration process between humanity and the Hadar, while highlighting themes such as diplomacy versus aggression and unity among diverse species against common threats. As we move forward into subsequent parts of this narrative journey together through these crises, unfolding within interstellar politics will reveal deeper complexities surrounding conflict resolution amidst rising hostilities between civilizations across galaxies.